Hello everyone. I wanted to give you a very short summary of the AMD keynote. I know I'm a little late, but I needed time to process everything. Once I give that summary, I'm going to go and give you my thoughts on the topic. So let me go and start. Okay, so let's start with the APUs. Apparently, the desktop APUs are called Dragon Range, but they won't be showing their face until 2023. For now, AMD has, I guess you can say, given their word that all of the new AMD Ryzens coming out this year will feature enough integrated graphics to be used for diagnostic purposes. So that's cool. I actually like that, but we'll get into that a bit later. So, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen with the APUs. For now, it seems that this is just like a holdover. Moving on. So the next big thing was the frequency shown on stage, because they did use their 16-core future Ryzen when playing a video game on stage. I think it was Ghostwire Tokyo. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But anyways, it was achieving up to 5.5 gigahertz during this gaming session. According to the very tiny text notes, the 16-core was not boosted or overclocked. Now, I doubt that that's correct, but we will see, I guess, in the future. One thing to note here is that, according to other major tech channels, the 16-core is not the flagship; it's the 24-core. So, if the 16-core was achieving 5.5 gigahertz, that means more than likely the 6 and 8 cores are achieving a little bit higher, because one thing that we have seen traditionally with processors is the more you go up in core count, the lower the gigahertz. So if 16 core is doing 5.5, I would imagine AM6 core are probably achieving that much easier, if not doing more than 5.5. So that is something that needs to be noted there. Okay, last thing that needs to be touched on is the motherboards. So AMD has no plans yet for an A series motherboard, because the last Ryzen launch used an A, B, and then X. A was the super budget, B was the budget but for gaming. So A was kind of more like for offices, B was more for budget gaming, and then X was just quite literally everything. That was their scheme the last time, but this time they're changing it so that there is no A. There is two X now. So one's an X with an E stamped on it, one without an E stamped on it. So that's going to be X670 and X670E. The B6550, of course, is still there, and it will still be the budget option, apparently. Now, as far as the differences between all three, the X670E is more or less a promise that this motherboard will be handling insane overclocking. In addition to being a promise for insane overclocking, the motherboards will feature PCIe Gen 5 across the board. The X70 non-E will not feature Gen 5 across the board. It will feature Gen 5 only in certain areas. I think, if my memory is correct, they said it was just the storage and video card. As for B6550, that one is only running PCIe Gen 5 on the storage. It is only running Gen 4 on the video card slot. So in order to get Gen 5 on the video card side of things, you'd have to jump up to X70 or X70E to guarantee that. Now, one other thing that needs to be noted here is, even though that's what they've presented, it's always up to the motherboard manufacturers to do kind of whatever they want to. So there might be some sort of weird configuration or change there. Now, last thing on the motherboard topic is that they will be making the latest Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 5.2 available to the motherboards that decide to go wireless. That's kind of interesting, and we'll see where that goes. That's the summary. Now to get into my thoughts on this whole matter. So I think it's okay for them to be doing integrated graphics just enough to do diagnostic purposes. I would have preferred the APUs came out sooner, but I understand that well, really, not just AMD, I guess I should say, but really everybody's had issues with the whole shortage. So if they were unable to do research and development because of the shortage, okay, I understand that. But it still would have been nice to see the AMD APUs. Linus Tech Tips did make a comment regarding it on one of his videos. I think he was angling towards, are we done yet with the APUs? And I hope not, because like I said in prior recordings, I think the APUs do still serve a purpose. I think that if AMD can create its own encoder for streaming, just like NVIDIA did, I think that they can make something really useful out of the APUs. And even then, I think APUs still have their place, because there are certain games that really don't require a ton of graphics, certainly more than probably what they'll have on the integrated graphics coming up, but there are some games that just certainly don't require a video card, and I would hope that they continue the APUs, not just for the encoding purposes, but also for video game purposes, so that nobody has to go straight to a video card in the event that they're playing a game that doesn't require it. But yes, anyways, that's the APU stuff. Kind of the next thing I want to touch on is B6550. From what I've seen from the major tech channels, which I watch a lot of them, I watch Gamers Nexus, Linus Tech Tips, and a couple others. So far, from what I've seen, it doesn't look like the video cards have yet fully saturated PCI Gen 5. If that trend continues well into this year, and we'll of course see once, all the new stuff comes out, but if that trend continues, then I think B6550 is going to be the dominant motherboard for the AM5 socket, simply because there's no point in spending the extra money to go up to an X670 when B6550 is doing everything you need it to anyways. But again, we'll see if that changes. From what I know, the next AMD video cards, apparently the flagship is like the 7900 XT, from what I've seen. And apparently the 7900 XT is insanely fast for video cards, but whether or not that will translate to saturating Gen 4 has yet to be seen. So those are the kind of things that I'm talking about that we'll need to wait and see. But as far as their motherboard scheme goes, I think that it would be a mistake for them not to bring back A series. The reason for that is I think that they could use the A series as the DDR4, because the B6550 and X70s will all be DDR5 only. So it would make sense to bring in the A model to have DDR4 support for the super budget options, because you are looking at, in the worst case, $100 USD difference between DDR4 and DDR5. Even then, there's not much of a performance difference between the two. I've seen plenty of benchmarks on DDR5 versus DDR4, and at best it's been a 2 FPS difference in gaming. So 2 FPS difference really is nothing when you consider that it takes 100 USD to make that jump. So I think that it would be important for them to bring back the A series for those kind of like super budgety options, not just for the office but for gaming too. I think that that's what they should do, but that's just me. As far as the whole wattage is concerned, so I am seeing, I guess you can say, different wording here, but it would seem that some people think that 170 watts is the peak wattage of the new AMD Ryzens. It's not going to achieve that all the time. It's just going to do it if it's overclocking or boosting or something. If that's the case, then fine, whatever. That's not really a big deal, because if you look at current generation Intel, which is 12th gen, that one can consume up to 230 watts when it's boosted or overclocked. I forget which of the two it is. I can always go back and look. So don't let that number be deceiving to you. It's not really a high number in comparison to Intel, at least right now. And I would imagine going forward that 13th gen probably will not reduce the power consumption any lower. So yes, don't let that whole number fool you or deceive you, because AMD actually is doing a very good job of power savings. not just on the Ryzen processors that are coming out, but apparently also the video cards. Again, we'll have to wait and see, but apparently the 7900 XT is 500 watts. If that's the case, then that's less than NVIDIA by a significant margin. Supposedly, the 4090 has changed wattage since its engineering sample. It's gone from 1000 watts to 800 watts. But either way, AMD is 7900 XT, which is their flagship, so this is a fair comparison, is 500 watts, so that means it's an entire 300 watts less than NVIDIA's flagship. So there's a pretty big difference in power between not just the CPU, but also the video card. And that's great to see. I'm really happy to see AMD's becoming the power-saving solution, as well as being an alternative solution in the market. So, but yeah, that's really all I can say on this until more information is given. Thanks for listening.